If you've lived in Cleveland any length of time, you'll know these two guys. Attorneys Scott Kanavos and the legendary James F. Logan. And this is going to be an epic episode. Two of the most well-known attorneys there are.
For good and for ill. And I love that.
Yeah. You can't do everything just perfect, can you?
Well, it is called the practice of law, not the exact science. I say that all the time.
I tell people it's amazing. I'm trying to learn today and be better because practice does let you achieve at least some degree of successes for your clients.
And in truth, all professionals get knocked down. I mean, you watch a football game and Tom Brady's getting knocked on his butt. I mean, when we were growing up, rockets exploded, right? And these were rocket scientists making them, right? I mean, for God's sakes, Ford made the Edsel and the Pinto.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know how lawyers can be held to such constantly high levels of accountability.
But Scott's utilization of the term as he looks to people as he's speaking, he ends his question with he makes his question with a declaratory statement and says, right, and you start doing what?
You start nodding.
Nodding.
Isn't that the Dale Carnegie, part of the Dale Carnegie?
There was a chapter on that, according to my father. He said, son, do you use that? And I said, no, Dad, I'm not quite that good.
Did you ever have the Dale Carnegie? You never had the Dale Carnegie?
No, Dad did.
I had it. Did you have it?
I took it, not only that, but not only did I learn a lot from it, because let's face it, I'm a really nice guy who manages to make a lot of ex-friends very quickly, okay?
How do you like the okay? You got it in there and you're agreeing with it.
I mean, it's true. So I learned a lot from the Dale Carnegie course, but more than anything else, the thing I learned the most from were 7 habits for highly effective people. I thought that really just changed my life for the better. It gave me a framework in which to take what ability I had already and then start putting a harness over it. And it made me a lot better person as well as a much better lawyer, I think.
Everybody I know who has taken the Dale Carnegie course has felt more confident about their ability to talk with others, to make presentations, to do everything. The Dale Carnegie course, we don't even do it anymore, do we?
Not much. I took the course and was a GA, graduate assistant, they call it.
Well.
That was a big deal. But no, that's an old, they used to take stuff like that as a skill talent. Mm-hmm. And now, I'm not sure what they take as a skill talent anymore. I mean, it's a standard skill talent.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that makes a lot of sense to me because, part of the whole Dale Carnegie thing is to work harder at being a good listener and asking the people you're with questions rather than talking all the time.
Yeah, you provoke in the other person. One of the principles is you provoke in the other one a positive thought, and then they'll give you that positive feedback.
That explains why he's so good at this.
He is good at this, without question.
Have you ever read Teddy Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena?
I have.
Boy, that is so underrated.
Without
It's
question.
so underrated.
It really is.
But tell me about this Law Day. Law Day was what? Created in 1958?
Yes. And well, actually, Eisenhower was very, very supportive of us having a coming together of this country to demonstrate our pride and the beauty of our system of government. As we say, and you've heard it many, many times, we are a system of laws and not of men. That was the initial statements which were made regarding the celebration of Law Day. It was in response to what you see every day, the reference to the Russians, the Soviet Union, and their celebration of their power and their might and their weapons and their control over the people of the Soviet Union, and now, as we know it, of Soviet Russia, and parts of Ukraine and some other countries. But Law Day is a celebration of something that we most oftentimes do not really appreciate, that we are a Republican form of government, better defined as a democratic Republican form of government. And that's the process we use, is the people speak through their power to vote and elect folks. Indeed, that's probably something we really ought to talk about to some extent. That is casting an informed vote, and our duty as citizens of this country to be informed regarding the issues and not to react based upon emotion.
And in truth, you know, Eisenhower had his hands full with a lot of domestic issues at the time. I mean, my favorite Eisenhower quote is that peace and justice are two sides of the same coin, you know. And he said this in a speech just after he had to deal with the Little Rock 5 controversy. This is where 5 black students were ordered into the, well, almost exclusively a predominantly white Little Rock High School, the main high school in town in 1957. And, you know, Eisenhower and Kennedy and Johnson and Nixon, even now through today, all of our executive leaders have had their hands filled with the civil rights question. And many of the issues that we felt like we had gotten, decided in the 60s and 70s, now have sort of flared back up yet again. And it's surprising that it has.
It is surprising.
I mean, especially given the idea is that, and I tend to believe this is true, that overall, over time, all societies are towards, as Martin Luther King said, toward justice. Don't you think that's true, Jim?
I do, that all people don't have the same concept of justice. The people around the world do not recognize, and we oftentimes do not think about how important the concept of being fair and just in the administration of our laws, our legal system. Justice is a really difficult thing. People take great pride in our founding fathers and their wisdom, but our country has developed the thought of, I want to be just to others, and sometimes not even recognizing that they're doing so. But then, what? We even said women could vote. What, 100 years ago?
Or less, I guess, right?
1919.
Almost a little
Yes.
over 100 years ago.
What a concept.
Yeah, my daughter.
Wasn't it amazing that our forefathers said women can't vote?
Yep.
How about this? How simple it is that our system has progressed, where that you don't have to own real property, unencumbered real property, before you can vote.
That's right.
That's right. That was prior to women's rights,
That
right?
That's correct.
That was the original Constitution. I
Yeah.
mean, I have in my hand a copy of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution of the United States. Since we're talking about Law Day, I'm going to go ahead and make the promo for
Sure.
it now. Students of Cleveland High School, Bradley High School, and Walker Valley High School, beware very soon. Next couple weeks, Law Day. There will be some lawyers will be coming to your schools and speaking with you. All senior members of each class will be getting one of these little constitutions right here that you can take with you, that you can read and make part of your life. Andy J. Brown is the president of the Bradley County Bar Association. His number is 423-476-4515. I know that he's in the process now of getting this lined up. Participate in Law Day, go to the lecture, and learn a little bit about your Constitution. Now,
Not only your Constitution, but that idea that we are continually attempting to improve the concepts that were in that Constitution, and primarily the Bill of Rights. But there are some parts of that in which the Supreme Court justices, have changed our belief as to what some of those mean.
Well, I think that's a dynamic
The
part of it.
definitions,
Well,
would you say, or the
How about the bazooka in your backyard? And that
nuclear weapon?
Well, all kinds of things. But what I'm talking about is this concept that we now have about the right of people to keep and bear arms being an unfettered right, essentially. When our founding fathers who drafted that, it took them a minute and a half to reload their gun, and the ammunition would travel to the end of your property line here, about 150 feet, perhaps. And today, our ammunition will go through every wall in this house. If I were standing in the backyard, and I could kill somebody at the front yard by just firing one of 60 shots within a minute and a half. So, where are we? Is there room for us to continue to improve? How have we regressed? Scott, you know that from day one almost until 2006, if you were stopped by police officers for a reason, and you had a gun and some ammunition, you would be arrested and charged with carrying a weapon with the intent to be armed.
that's exactly right.
Scott prosecuted some of those cases when he worked with the district attorney's office.
And I certainly did.
And you forfeit the gun,
Yeah.
and you pay a $50 fine at least.
And the gun ends up 6 months later at a police auction,
Yeah.
where it can be purchased by someone else.
That's right.
Not,
doesn't make a lot
not
of
normally
sense,
the
does it?
officer that makes the arrest, but sometimes. Maybe his cousin.
But that's not to suggest at all that people shouldn't have a right to have arms, protect themselves at their home.
Well, we
or
can't
their
have a
property.
nuclear weapon in our backyard, so why, you know what I'm saying? In other words,
How
there's
about
a,
assault weapons?
I
that
think
are
there's a
developed?
difference between being able to protect yourself and being able to annihilate people, if that makes sense.
Well,
So just to protect myself, I should be able to do that, right?
Yeah, do you need
I don't- that's
an
what I'm saying.
AK-47 with bump stock
Yeah.
where you can fire 60 bullets in a minute and a half?
I must admit that I have one.
Well, congratulations.
I mean,
I
I must admit that I do.
got an Uzi
Yeah.
in a
I do
forfeiture,
too.
but I gave it
I have
to
an
the
arsenal.
sheriff's department.
I have an arsenal. I mean, I do. And here's what I think. You know, I don't want to get all bogged down in some discussion about guns or not guns, but I think it's important that we do talk about law and how law changes and affects it.
That's right.
Now, I personally think that our gun laws are kind of a joke, frankly. All right. I do think that, again, I don't think everybody should have an AK-47, but I think I should have one. Okay. And I'm going to tell you something else. I grew up surrounded by criminals. I'm surrounded by convicted felons who I love, whose judgment I trust a lot more than a lot of other people's. And I'm going to tell you, if you live down on Keith Valley Road, all right, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're a convicted felon, ain't nobody needs a handgun more than a convicted felon out there, okay? And I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I think our gun laws, they pick and
I would
choose.
respectfully disagree that everybody down there, are there any implications?
Not
Keith Valley
everybody.
Road people are the
Not
finest
everybody.
people in the
Not
world.
they're the greatest people. But every once in a while,
I
there's
went
one
to
that
school
is
with them. They are, you wouldn't call them a name.
No,
You wouldn't do it.
and you
But if you
should.
needed help,
You
they'd
absolutely,
be right there.
absolutely.
That's
your
right.
home.
That's right.
But if you work hard and somebody comes onto your property, I mean, I say this all the time and I've copyrighted it. I believe that Homeland Security begins with a dog and a gun. I do believe it. And
copyrighted it. Who's the lawyer who filed that application?
because I'm afraid the NRA will steal that from me. That's how good that is.
I think it's a matter of, is the Constitution, we got these old laws that were on the books with horse and buggy, and we're trying to apply them today with rocket ships and Tesla electric cars. So you hate to say that the Constitution should evolve, but
There's no question.
Why shouldn't it?
it just, but how many constitutional amendments have we had? What, How many? I'm gonna bet
Well,
there's
here
not
we
a
go.
many.
We're turning. I know the 26th Amendment didn't pass.
What is that number? Is that only 26?
We don't have that many amendments to the Constitution.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It seems like it should have evolved. Because it's like the Bible. The Bible doesn't say you can't smoke marijuana.
But isn't it interesting that even the Bible, all right, think about it. In the 2,000 years or so since it's been decreed and since it's been interpreted and written and rewritten and printed, all right, I have sat in many churches and I have heard many sermons that all interpret the Bible a little bit differently. And that's why every other week there's another church starting somewhere else, okay? Because 16 or 17 people sitting in that church go, wait a minute, that's not what the Bible says. I believe it means this.
So they go to somewhere else and worship.
Absolutely.
Well, the fascinating aspect of that, though, is the freedom of religion. And many people do not know that as the Christian faith was promulgated in the United States, not only was it, but there were people who were fleeing religious persecution before we became the United States, Muslims. And that's why you have, in certain areas in the northeastern part of our country, you still have foundation of people who came originally to this country because of religious persecution. Now, did the forefathers who wrote that take into consideration those issues? The Jewish faith, the other things that we have, and we have today, what? Stories about people who want to rid our society of the Jewish faith believers.
Which is
We
very
have to
ironic.
protect everybody's right to think the way they want to think. If we don't, at some point, we may be the minority.
That's
So we have
exactly
to
right.
protect that right.
That's exactly right. I mean, think about it. We've, again, the Constitution, in my view, these people who are strict interpretationists
Yeah.
of the Constitution.
And what do they call it? There's a name for them.
I think
Strict instructions.
strict instructionists.
Yeah.
They think the Constitution is and ought to be interpreted as our forefathers could see and believe that it was. I don't think that that's the way it ought to be. I like my Constitution like I like my Bible. I like a little. I mean, if the Bible's a living, breathing document that can be interpreted and reinvigorated after a generation or so, I think the Constitution ought to be the same way.
I believe it should be the same too. I believe it's as ambiguous. It's all ambiguous.
If you discern the original intent, you don't just adopt those things without taking into consideration the desired result and not the strict interpretation of everything as it was interpreted in the beginning. That's just not anything feasible about
We
that.
have res judicata and stare decisis,
And they're
it all-
meaningless when we have a settled precedent that's overruled.
I agree,
and
it's troublesome.
changed.
I agree,
Okay.
it is troublesome.
That's why it's important to select the Supreme Court, right?
That's why it's important to vote also.
And to vote.
Exactly.
And
All
the
these
question-
people that say, there's so many, can you imagine the people that don't even vote? Even in Bradley County, it's like what percentage?
The last few elections have been under 15%. There was one within the past few years, 16%. We used to vote 40%.
That was low. That'd be low in my opinion.
Yes, and 50%. But many people, do not believe that they have enough knowledge or can understand the issues which confront them. And many people believe that most politicians are just lying to get up there to be able to line their own pockets. Now, we know that many of us may be guilty at times of even reinforcing that perspective. And it may be true that many people who get elected to Congress, the United States Senate or the House of Representatives, do come out with more wealth than they would have if they'd stayed home working.
Voting trends are down everywhere, though. I mean, we talked about when women got the right to vote. It's an interesting trivia question, Dee. When do you think the last time was when a majority of American citizens, more than 51%, voted in an election.
Probably on that very election about women voting.
It was just before then. Before then, on national elections, state elections, the voting turnout was very high. All right, sometimes in the 60, 70%. In other areas, it was as high as 80%. But once, and I'm not picking on women, okay, but you know, more and more people would get infused into the electorate, and less people have been voting since then. I mean, there hasn't been a majority of voters vote, registered voters vote, or could participate in the system since really the 1920 election. I think that's when Harding was elected. I think that's right.
What a great choice was made.
Yes.
But again, that is my goal, and people talk about the fact, as you know, that I go to the radio stations and sometimes comment with television stations and other media about an election result. One of the things that's been so fascinating to me is that when I then talk to people, what is it that drove your vote? Why did you vote? Why did you believe that your vote ought to count? And I know I've seen many people, and you've seen them too, Scott, who come in and say, I don't vote. And the reason they don't is I don't know what I ought to do. Many people believe that, and the issues have become so complex, and people are driving their votes based on emotional response to something.
Well, even if they're basing them on emotional response, at least use that as at least vote, right?
Well,
No.
You think if you're not informed, you shouldn't be informed.
If all your response is an emotional response to something that you don't know enough about to even be excited about that emotional response from an honest, self-honest, somebody might say, well, a knowledgeable basis. I don't think that that's necessarily an accurate statement. Do I think everybody ought to have that right? Certainly I do. But my challenge is to us as citizens who are watching your programs and learning. Be more informed. We used to sit around at my house when I was growing up, and we'd have neighbors come over and eat Sunday lunch. You know what the conversation would be about?
What?
Who should be elected in this precinct or this district to the county commission? Who should be elected mayor? Who should be elected county judge, as it was?
well,
That doesn't happen, does it?
here's the
Not
real.
like it did.
And that was an ancient, beautiful time. Okay, no offense, but Jimmy is so old he represented Moses. You know what I'm saying? All right, but that's an
It came out pretty well, didn't
Yeah, he did. He did all right by him. Okay, he didn't get to go in the promised land, but he did. But he got several more good years. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't let him in,
He
did he?
didn't let him in. No, but Jimmy tried hard. Anyway, but it was a different time. We all grew up here when there were 16,000 people, right? Maybe 18,000. All right. I remember when you got your name in that Cleveland phone book. Man, you had arrived.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal. Get that phone book, and you'd go through there and you'd see your friends. I'd look up the local lawyers. I'd see Conrad Fennell, Jimmy, Logan, and I'd go, they were like heroes to me. But
How old were you then?
I was just a kid. I was at Valley View Elementary School. I was 12 years
You
old.
were aspiring to be a lawyer then.
I thought about it then, but the fact of the matter
Evidently you were.
is, I had given it some thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the world's changed so much. The real problem we have is that we've grown up too quickly and we're too rich. It's so easy not to care about these very important issues when you're distracted constantly. And these generations that are coming up now are just woefully distracted. I mean,
That's the truth.
it's really the truth. They don't care.
Social media may be the most disruptive, and when I say disruptive, it may be the reason for great failures today.
And the real problem with America today, in my view, is this. Not enough people have skin in the game, all right? I want it's like Jimmy says, I want everybody to vote, but I don't want them to vote on an emotional basis. I don't want them to vote because somebody looks good or that he is a Trump guy or not a Trump guy. I want them to vote based upon the issues, or the real genuine issues, and that they've thought about it, okay? And the real difficulty is there's not enough people voting to have skin in the game as it is. Our voting numbers continue to plummet downward, and they do so in large part, I think, in Bradley County because we're a one-party community. It's all. I mean, I think probably, Dee, you've got the last two Democrats in Bradley County here, okay?
And two good ones.
Well, but you understand that we have breakfast sometimes at the Old Fort, and there's some guys that have breakfast there, and they think the only good Democrat's a dead Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay?
They say the last Democrat party met in the phone booth, right? Isn't that what's
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
But the phone booth is too big a place for us today.
Too big a place for us today. But, you know, I think what you've got going on in Bradley County, the last election was an abysmal turnout. And I think, you know,
Crazy.
people
But
got.
but it was a little higher when you say the last. No, you're correct.
Yeah.
But the one before that.
Yeah, I think COVID had something to do with
Sure,
it.
yeah.
Sheriff's race.
That's
Two
always
terms.
gets them out there.
Yeah,
My
first
grandfather was not a very literate person. In fact, he could not read or write. All right, neither could my grandmother. But my grandfather, at the height of the Depression, went through the CCC camps, the Civilian Conservation Corps. And let me tell you something. This gave my grandfather an opportunity to see other parts of the country and to work on the national forest and to build a bridge and to be with other young men who needed jobs at that time. And that generation of young men went and fought World War II,
Right.
all right, defeated fascism in Germany.
When they weren't supposed to win.
And that's right, defeated fascism and totalitarianism in Japan. Then they made all those great cars in the 1950s. They put a man on the moon,
Prior
right?
to that, they sent their sons to Vietnam.
And they voted.
Oh,
They voted. They voted.
Vietnam.
And then as soon as they got a little older, they said, sorry, Social Security may not be there. That guy right today is about 94, right?
Well, I would say most of those guys are dead.
But he's about 94 if he's living,
He's
93.
94 or a little older
Yeah.
even. Because I can remember when the Vietnam War was beginning to get more and more a matter for our concerns, starting in Eisenhower 2000.
He graduated high school in 63 or 4, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
Me?
Yeah.
4.
You graduated
63.
Yeah.
64.
He's 18 years older than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 63-64 class.
So you graduated high school in 1964. The Vietnam War had to be on your mind.
Yeah, because it was raging at 68,
Yeah.
67.
Yes. But we listened to presidential candidates, people who were wanting to develop a better policy with reference to the various issues which confront us. The Vietnam War is one of those. And my father said that Richard Milhouse Nixon should have bought $100 worth of book matches because we were still smoking back then and should have gone home. But instead, we know what all happened with reference to that. But the Vietnam War, George McGovern, war hero, without question. Now we're talking specific issues as opposed to the significance of Law Day USA, and I probably need to stop there. But I got to tell you that President Nixon, as the Vietnam War was a big issue for us, I have a plan, a secret plan, I can't let it be known, to end the Vietnam War. George McGovern's position was, I declare, if the day I take office, I will declare victory and bring our people home on ships and planes. What happened? We declared victory 2 years after that election and brought our people home as they're climbing up rope ladders to get into helicopters and ships and planes. It is an incredibly difficult thing for us to understand how decision-making should be made. But if somebody tells you they've got a secret plan, and I'm telling you I've got a secret plan to build the house that you're going to build for me, huh? Will you build that house?
It sells, but it'll sell some people in their thinking, which goes back to your thing about you shouldn't vote on emotions. You should go on informed decisions.
And how we have that conversation, if you will. You know, Dee, that the conversations I have with strong Republicans, strong libertarians, that those discussions, most of the time that we have, are about the merits or the lack of merit of positions which our government is taking. And we get along fabulously well.
Sure.
Until we say, well, you're just a liberal,
Yeah.
or you're just a
Well,
Republican.
they use that. They don't even know what that means, really. I'm extremely liberal in my social issues and extremely conservative in my physical issues. So I think that makes me a libertarian. I hate to even label it.
Yes, you do.
Of all this, have you ever thought about this? We're in a society that doesn't want to label people, but yet we're labeling the people that don't label. I mean, why say I'm a Republican Democrat? It's crazy to me.
Well, certainly it's crazy, except to the extent of the determination of power within a community. Does it matter if the Register of Deeds, my dad, 8 terms? Does it matter what his politics is? He doesn't have any
Absolutely
discretion of any kind. None.
Absolutely not.
None.
And none.
At all.
You know, people call me a liberal, and I dig it, but I don't care anything about politics, really. I'm interested in love. I'm interested in the love of my family. I'm interested in the love of my neighbors. I'm interested in the love and well-being of my community. I love my country. I do love it. You know, I think we've lost sight somehow in this country of how awesome love is, right? And I'm talking about genuine love. People, we represent and have represented over the course of our careers so many despised people, right? And there are some people who frankly despise us. And I understand that, but I don't care, because I'm not interested in people who don't like me, unless, of course, they come to my house, in which case, okay, all right? You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, your liberty to hate my guts ends where my nose begins.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't care what you say about me.
It makes no difference.
And on some issues, I am conservative. On other issues, I am liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you. I'm pretty much a fiscal conservative. I mean, everyone at this table paid more taxes than Donald Trump has recently paid.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm
More
just
than Warren Buffett. But,
okay.
Yeah.
And probably Warren
Right.
Buffett. Now I love my accountant. He's a dear friend of mine.
Yeah.
But I wish he'd get a little more creative on that end.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little more nuanced.
Right? But
Yeah.
I think, again, getting back to this idea that people need to have more skin in the game, I know it sounds crazy for a liberal Democrat to say this, but I'm all for a flat tax. I think there ought to be a flat tax. Everybody ought to have skin in the game.
Man, if they had a flat tax, it would solve so many problems.
Not only that,
It
but
would
I don't
only
under-
create problems. The reality
But
is...
other people would get off
just
their
about-
Well,
butt,
how
they would
about
get up
this?
and they would
How
go
about this?
vote.
A sales tax.
A sales
I
tax?
mean, a tax on a consumption tax.
Okay, you get a consumption tax for
Except on
groceries.
yeah.
Except you get a consumption on groceries.
Yeah.
We got the highest sales tax, because everybody thinks everything's 10%, but it's not. But we've got the highest or the second highest sales tax in the state of Tennessee. We're the third lowest property tax rate in the state of Tennessee.
Thank goodness.
If you think that
Yeah.
the billionaires, well, wait, I'll give you 10% more than you paid for any piece of property you got.
Well,
Okay?
I don't care
Now, wait.
about that.
Yeah, you don't care about
No,
that.
I don't
because
care
the question
about
is
that.
the fairness
No.
of the application of the property tax.
You want
Because we
fair?
swear,
You
we
want
swear.
fair? Get a wheel tax going. I mean, hold on a second. Look, all I'm saying is, you put down a flat tax, and a lot more people will get off that sofa and go vote and they'll start thinking.
That's right.
They'll start thinking about it a little more creatively. Because what we've got right now is we have a handful of people who seem to care about who's taxing who, who's paying what tax, and we have a lot of other people who aren't participating in the system. And they're not participating because there's no motivational tool for them to do it. There's no great enemy for us to fight. We have eschewed mandatory military service, though I believe in it, okay? Just like I believe in mandatory community service. I believe if we had a program where every young American after high school could go serve their country, like in the Civilian Conservation Corps, see other parts of the country, serve in the military for 2 years, some other program similar to that, Peace Corps, Job Corps, whatever, and my mind's wide open to it. But that way, at least, they would see, okay, how great this country is. And they would reinvest in themselves, and they would be more committed toward the republic. What we have going on right now, you want to lose your child, you give them a cell phone, right? And they will fall out all together and not participate in the system.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
But if they did two things, they'd get just about everybody. If they had a flat tax and implemented the draft.
Yes.
Everybody with kids would say, now what's that guy saying?
Yeah, let me share with
Right.
you. We can talk about the taxes. I think we probably need to go back to the law. Yeah. But let's talk about the taxes. Each of you, and I am so pleased that you are so successful.
Thank you.
Well, that's and the jury's still out, I guess, right?
No. The jury's not out. I know you well enough to know, and you're about as good as it gets in terms of building and performing and those things, without question. I know that Scott Kanavos is about as good as it gets
100%.
in this state.
Because
in
10%,
terms of his
10%,
ability.
10%
Listen
of
to
us
me,
have the
you won't
ability
let
to
me
work.
finish. That's typical of Mr. Kanavos. But the reason that he does listen occasionally, he still calls me. And he says, Jimmy, what do you think about this approach?
Yeah.
And I say, it's brilliant 99% of the time. He wants that 1% of the time.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to him. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, you use more government services than anybody who lives on Blythe Avenue South. You do.
Sure, I agree.
Scott uses more services than anybody who lives on Blythe Avenue South. Those folks who make less than the preferred minimum wage, aren't you proud we still have a minimum wage of $7.85 an hour for folks who bend over and break their backs? Nobody's proud of that. Nobody is. But by God, we don't want any tax increases we don't want any prices to be increased.
I'm all for taxing corporations, Jimmy. I'm all for taxing the wealthy.
Yeah, but what about the individuals
Hold on. I pay tax
services?
Listen. I
listen all the time. You're not listening because you're smarter than what you're espousing.
I know.
And I give you credit
I
for
pay
that
my fair share of taxes. We're talking about reinvigorating a country right now, all right? How do you reinvigorate the country to become interested in the rule of law? Because
we treat people in a just manner. With reference to even the question of whether or not we have a flat tax. You give somebody...
give me a pain threshold. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question, okay? Is there a pain threshold? Is there a six-figure income that you're willing to live with that people pay a flat tax?
A six-figure income.
$100,000 or more.
Let me share with you. You and I make more than that.
I know that we do.
And we make more than...
But we pay our fair share of
90%, not 90, at least 86% of the people who live in the state of Tennessee. Okay?
Certainly.
Now, in terms of having that, and you have, and I've been fortunate enough occasionally to have substantial income, you have as well.
I'm with you.
Now, when I have that much money, and I attain that because of my ability to utilize government services, including the justice system, to get compensation for folks, is it fair for me to have a disposable income of $450,000, $750,000 when the folks who are doing the work and buying the widgets, you know why we have building plants, new plants? It's because folk on the lower end, middle class, lower, or poorer folks have got enough money to buy more widgets or a better widget.
Do you know what the income tax was for the average American under President Eisenhower?
I think I know close. I do not know exactly, but I know what it was.
51%.
Yes.
51%. That means that
It was higher than that when I started working as an attorney and made money in
Consumption tax?
1971.
No, 51% income tax. We had just come out of World War II. We were building the highways. We were arming ourselves to the teeth. 51%. Now I'm in a 38% tax bracket. You are too. You probably are in a 38% tax bracket, right? I have no.
That's correct. When
Let me tell you something.
86% of the tax benefit
I think
that we got from the enactment of the Tax Reform Act of 1986, when 86% of the benefit of that tax reform
Right.
went to less than 3%, nobody disputes, went to less than 3% of the American public. Okay, now you tell me that when I can get an additional, when I get a reduction in my taxes, as you got some reduction in your taxes, and I get $45,000 more in disposable income, let me share with you, I felt absolutely crazy sick about that.
Well, I've got two daughters who can spend money like it's out of style.
I'll talk to you about that if you want to send your two children to Samford University.
Yes,
Come on.
I mean, all I'm saying is this, okay? We can do better as a country on all of these things and more, all right?
Yes.
And I just think we've got to get people more involved in the country. They've got to have more skin in the game.
And they got to take on the responsibility.
And that's always
How many
true.
people
But they're
who
not-
rap and complain about Social Security disability benefits going to Joe, who can outwork anybody that they know? And I say, I reported 8 people 2 years ago. I reported 4 people, yes, last year. How many people?
Snitches get stitches, Jimmy.
How many? Well, that's a part of our responsibility. That's part of our legal system and our obeying the law. Now, Scott, how many people did you report over the past 10 years?
I have not reported anyone.
Have you heard folks say, I know who works for one of our multi-billionaires?
What?
Yes, and he's drawing Social Security disability.
Who? What are you talking about?
There's no place for me to name the name,
Okay,
but you know those folks, and I know you do, and we'll discuss the identity of them. I reported them, and nobody did anything. Social Security didn't do anything about it.
Well, we don't swim. We don't swim in the same tank, obviously.
Oh, there's no question about it, because I try to live up to, and I think you want to, the responsibility
that's
that
not
we
what I'm
have as a
talking about.
citizen.
That's not what I'm talking about.
What tank were you talking about that you were going to put me in?
No,
and that you're in, that I'm not in.
Well,
I don't know any rich people that are claiming Social Security disability. Is all I'm saying. I don't know who those people are.
that's always a gray area, who's disabled and who's not. And
I think
I
it
guess
is.
it's the people that look at it. I trust that they know what's up, right? I guess.
This again points to, what are we a system of? Are we a system of men who manipulate the new laws that we have? Do we do that? Do you know why Vincent and Elkins closed their 28 lawyers and their lobbyist effort? They moved it out of their office in D.C. And they did that because, as a result of the change in Congress, which took place in 1994, and they were able to get the Internal Revenue Code amended and the National Security Act amended to create millions of dollars of tax credit by Colorado Gas. Millions. And they got to keep the value of that on the books. And they said you could have an accelerated depreciation schedule. Folks, that's what we need to know about who's doing those things and changing those laws.
Let's talk about that, because that's really the real thing that we've got going on right now, is that we can't even agree on what the truth is anymore.
Or the definitions.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly
That's,
right.
we need a glossary in the beginning of what definitions we're going to use. Let me ask you this. What did Eisenhower mean exactly when he said we are no longer subject to force? We no longer have to decide between force and law. Is that what he said?
I'm
He said we no longer have a choice between, we no longer, that he stated in a very, very real sense, the world no longer has a choice between force and law. If civilization is to survive, it must choose the rule of law.
Amen. Because Eisenhower, of course, was the commander-in-chief, all right?
Now, was he Ike?
He was Ike.
Okay.
I like Ike. Okay?
Yeah.
Eisenhower, of course, had to stand down fascism. He was the head of the Allied forces in Europe, the European theater. He was the commander of the European theater, and he was the one who called all the shots with respect to how all the Allied resources be
And
used.
both political parties wanted him to run for president.
They did.
Yeah.
And they
Instead
couldn't
of Adlai Stevenson taking the second term.
They couldn't get to him quickly enough, okay?
Yeah.
And what happened was, I mean, he was this tremendous leader, great organizational skills, a personable man, but, you know, he had seen the horror of war. I mean, Eisenhower's industrial war speech at the end, okay, the unholy triad between lobbyists and Congress and the military, all right, and the war machine that goes on and still proliferates through this day. I mean, when you think about it, and I'm former Navy, I served my country honorably. I was glad to do it, but I have to admit that in a lot of ways, Eisenhower is exactly right when he said that, you know, there's going to come a time when we're going to be spending too much money on these things. And really, thank goodness, because it's one of the few things we do well. All
The
right?
quote from his
Did he
speech
start
as he
the
went out of
industrial-
office, was beware
Beware of it.
Of the
the
industrial
military industrial complex.
And really, the speech was, originally the title of the speech was the Industrial Military Congressional Complex, because he understood that the politicians were all dying to get these military bases and these military contracts in their districts, and that the money would flow in this unholy triad between these three organizations, and the military would always ask for more and more and more because it never does them any good to ask for less.
Like education.
Exactly
Similar.
right. Everything. Exactly right.
Now, let me ask you this. On the Waltons, remember, they would always sit in front of the radio, and who's the head guy, the daddy of the Waltons?
Mr. Walton?
Yeah, he'd always say, he'd always quote, he'd say, well, Ike said, you know, he had that hair down, he'd say, well, Ike said.
Well, I think
I mean,
he was,
those people in
the
that
Waltons
day-
were in the 30s. I think he's talking about FDR.
Was is that right?
That's right.
Well, didn't he refer to Ike, though?
I don't recall.
I don't know.
I
Maybe during World War II. I don't know. I haven't watched every
got
episode.
your notes. Tell us.
Well, no, this was separate from, but that's all I've got.
You leave my client alone, sir.
Badgering the witness, Your Honor. But Law Day has become a way to it's more of an education for the people coming up. in
And
the
a
law.
celebration.
And a celebration.
It should be
yeah.
a celebration.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When we talk about the Constitution, we live in the only country in the world that believes in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Jimmy, I know you've got something about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness up your sleeve.
I don't. I value all lives. I really do, and I think you do as well.
I do.
And
'Cause
some
I
of the
love
questions we confront. But liberty is a concept that's oftentimes understood by the people who view that concept of my freedom to do whatever I wish to do. As you know, I've represented sovereign citizens who slaughtered people. And I did so. Did I want to? Not when I really became deeply involved in the cases. Did the fees they were willing to pay impact me? Yes, they did. But you know how much free and pro bono work essentially that we
Nobody
do.
does more free legal
yeah.
work than James F. Logan Jr. Nobody does more free legal work in this community than James F. Logan Jr. That's the truth.
To preserve, though, this concept of a system of laws, there are going to be mistakes which are made, and we have a system which lessens, mitigates against mistakes that are made, except perhaps the question of whether you would say, well, liberty, the sucker didn't deserve it at all, because our system of laws allowed him to go free when I think he was guilty. We have those events that have occurred in this community, and you're aware of that. The fact is, liberty is a wonderful, wonderful concept, and our system of laws is calculated at preserving liberty for our citizens, free from the
Then
government.
why sometimes as the courts, you almost have to prove yourself innocent
Well, that's a
rather than
concept.
prove your...
Yeah, that's what many people believe. But I've watched Scott, and he has seen me, as we talk to jurors whom you believe when you see them as they scowl at the person seated at defense counsel as you begin jury selection. But when you start talking about our presumption of innocence and whether people will truly apply that concept, I've seen people whom I thought would vote to convict no matter what. The sucker came in already arrested, didn't he? And I've seen them be the foreperson of a not guilty verdict.
I
You
see.
have as
I
But
well.
are you still innocent until proven
You're
guilty?
innocent until proven guilty. And that's a great concept.
Because it seems like the general public is more thinking that they're guilty until they can hire the sufficient attorneys to prove they're
Dee,
innocent.
have you ever had jury duty before?
I've never had jury duty.
Okay, suffice it to say, for those watching who have had jury duty before, most of the time they don't walk into the courtroom, as Jimmy has indicated, right, and see somebody sitting beside either him or me and go, well, I wonder what this innocent man has done, okay?
Yeah.
They think to themselves, I wonder what he did,
Yeah.
okay?
Because they assume that they've hired one of y'all, they're guilty. Maybe.
Well, I'd like to think that they might think that they're guilty, but they get to go home. So, I mean, I'd prefer them go home, and I don't care.
I mean, I've had both of you represent me and stuff, and I was innocent on both of them.
There you go.
Well, I didn't.
You're still innocent.
I never
You're still
knew
innocent
that
as far as
anybody
I'm-
ever accused you of wrongdoing, maybe a business dispute, and I didn't know that Scott represented you in those cases. But
I can't remember what it was.
if it had been me, it would have been public ugliness that I'd been.
Well, all
let
I
me
want to
ask-
say is that the presumption of innocence, back to it for a second, it protects everybody. You know, because you know what a juror hates to do, right, is go to church on Sunday after they've had jury duty, and somebody goes, so I heard you were sitting on that jury trial this week, and you found him not guilty, right? And they go, how'd you do that, right? Well, why did you do that? And it's because the presumption of innocence cloaks the person who's sitting beside us, and it protects the juror. It protects everybody. It protects everybody in the room. It protects the prosecutors in the room. It protects us, the lawyers in the room. It protects, of course, the client, but more importantly, it protects the jurors in the case. Because if somebody is presumed innocent under the law, we compel the state, the government, to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If they fail to do that, if they're unable to do that, when we talk about presumption of innocence, we mean that somebody that cannot be found guilty unless the jury is morally certain as a body that they committed the crime. They can be morally certain. Their heads have got to rest easy on the idea. Because what is it better to do? You know the quote. It's better to let 100 men go free than one guilty man go to prison, right? Now, I think that's been, some people feel like that's changing. But I'm going to tell you, given the quality of jurors that I've seen, it has not changed in this country. I think
I think that's right. The other thing that's fascinating is in that area, with the developments of the new technologies, the science controls the decision making most of the time. It really does. And for example, this case that we just saw out of South Carolina that everybody was
the Murdaugh.
case. And they were able to tell you, if you've got a cell phone today, the government can, if they think you're worthy of the investigation at least, they can determine how fast Scott and I walk out of here.
If I was that guy's lawyer, I'd have said, now, wait a minute, you're telling me the phone didn't work there under the shed, and you're telling me they gave me an accurate time? I'd have dismantled it right there.
well, but
You
you
would have
understand.
dismantled the phone.
I just said, if the phone's not receiving, if the cell service is bad, the timing can't be right.
Well, Dee, that's because the three worst people you can ever represent in any case are a doctor, a lawyer, or a family member, right?
That's right.
They're the worst people you could ever represent in a
But
case.
now, how much money has a person spent in order to get a trial lawyer? I mean, or to get a jury trial?
Typically,
I mean, not $15, right?
Typically, it depends on the complexity of the case, and you can fairly quickly ascertain what that complexity is. But
Not
you
at Scott
have to-
Kanavos. It's reasonable doubt at a reasonable price. Weekends and after-hour appointments are available.
I
me
think
ask you this,
that's
Jimmy.
correct. But again, the dedetermination of what's reasonable is Scott Kanavos' determination.
Right.
But let me ask you this, Jimmy.
Sure.
Going back to 1965, it's Sunday afternoon. You're having lunch with your family. Your dad's there. The discussion comes up about general politics. He's wearing a suit, a tie. Those days are over.
They are.
I'm not going to have that discussion with my kids today. You're not going to have it with your...
We have knockdown, drag-out fights. I'll tell you what, my girls, and I know Jimmy's girls are probably the same way. When you grow up in a lawyer's household, you're always talking politics. Lily Frank Fitzgerald was one of my teachers. She was one of your teachers.
That's correct.
And Lily Frank Fitzgerald had something she said, I know she said it to your class because she said it to our class. Small minds talk about people. Medium minds talk about things, and great minds discuss ideas. Now,
Boy, that is ingenious. Say that again. I've never heard that.
She said it.
She said to all of her classes, small minds talk about people, mediocre minds talk about things, cars, planes, trains, and great minds discuss ideas.
Boy, that is ingenious. I've never thought about it on that level.
And she was something.
She was
And that's
really
true.
An amazing lady.
Great teacher, a great teacher. I grew up here and I was just awestruck. When I got to Bradley High School, I loved to check out those old yearbooks and see all the old guys in there. When you look at a picture of, Conrad Fiddle as a young man, all right?
Yeah.
My uncle died recently and I got his 1955 yearbook. And there's Conrad Fiddle and Warney's in there and a whole slew, cast of hundreds of people we know and love.
And now you know the story.
Behind all of these
yeah.
people,
Those people.
and I remember seeing Jimmy's yearbook, and Sheridan Randolph was in one very close to them, and so was Ken
He was
Miller,
there. Ken was 2 years ahead of us.
right? And you see them all, and then you see them grown up as men. And,
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. It's
Fascinating time. It really was an incredible time. The regulations were not precise.
What era was this now? The 60, 63, 64?
Yes, from 60 was an incredible year.
Were those men that were 50 years old in 1960, were they more responsible than a person 50 years old today? And if they are, in what way?
Yeah, well, they were better informed about local politics rather
sure
than
were.
having a party designation for who that was. In those years, in the 60s, all 50s, 60s, up to the 70s and 80s, in Bradley County, local officials I love to tell the story about my dad and Claude Clymer, best friends, across the hall from each other at the courthouse.
Yes.
And
Is that the one he signed? Your dad signed the petition for him to run against him?
no, that was Jim Rubel. Jim Rubel came to see Dad. And those who don't know Jim Rubel, he was an exceptionally
Way to go.
well-liked,
Yeah.
well-thought-of man. He was a great,
Yeah.
he was a
He
great
was.
guy.
Yeah.
Dad and Jim used to go to Florida on fishing trips together, and those things. So Jim Rubel comes to Dad's office. He's got a petition. No signatures on it yet. Jimmy, I wanted to be the first person to tell you, we've been friends for years, but the Republican Party has told me that you've been here too long, and that they think that that I could win, and they want me to run against you. And I've got a petition here to do just that, offer myself as a candidate. Daddy said, Jim, you're correct. We've been friends. We will remain friends no matter the outcome of this case. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. And let me have your petition. And Daddy signed Jim Rubel's
Oh, I love this
petition.
story. I love this story. I love it.
And Jim Rubel, his vote total was like Dad won by about 600 or 700 votes. 4 years later, in walks Jim Rubel to Dad's office.
How many did he win by?
600-700 votes. Okay.
Not much, right?
Not much.
There weren't that many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It was a
still,
landslide in
yeah,
Cleveland.
yeah.
But anyway, Jim Rubel walks in. Jay, they've told me that there's just no question that you've been here too long now. I've got a petition. And Daddy said, Jim, just like we said before, we've been friends for years, we've remained friends, and we will, no matter the outcome, be a friend to each of us and to our families. Daddy looked at him and said, Jim, I want you to also know that I'll be damned if I sign your petition.
Your dad was like that,
Yeah,
wasn't
he was.
I remember him.
Oh,
I
no
remember
question.
him.
He was wonderful, man.
But really, you know, going back to what we were talking about, it's what's wrong with our school system today? You know, is it the teachers? Do we not spend enough? It's the parents.
That's right.
It's the
That's
parents. Don't you think?
Without question.
Every week they roll into my office, and every week you see these young men, young women who have made horrific decisions. All right.
But by God, don't you think about pushing my child out of school or suspending my child for a week.
Did y'all ever get suspended or expelled?
It depends on whether or not you're talking about a public education system here.
I'm talking
or one
about
at a
it. I'm
higher
talking
level.
about in
Yeah,
school.
yeah. He ran into he had a little problem in college, but the worst thing they came up with when I was in school was in-school suspension.
Oh, that was nothing.
But I hated it because there you were as close to 17-year-old girls as you ever
Yeah.
were going to be legally.
Yeah.
All right. And you couldn't go. And he locked you up and kept you away from them all day long. I hated
Yeah,
in-school suspension.
that was in-school suspension. Then they had to expelled.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think all of these topics are so important to our community.
What
and
happened
to
in
our
high school?
state.
Though? Did you college? You say college?
Yes, I did. A fascinating event.
You care to share it with us?
It's a heartbreaking story.
It is. It really is. And it's got some great stories, and I don't mind sharing it. I made a stupid mistake. I got to the University of Tennessee and learned that all of the student activities were controlled by nothing but fraternities and sororities. They were called the Orange and White Party, as the fraternities and sororities divvied it up. What did I do? I said, we're going to change all of that. And
Imagine that.
I formed, along with the help of people from New York and, Mr. Jones, who had Carol printing, Lavoie, who had been in the service and was going back to the service. And Lavoie helped me. Bob Johnson, who is one of the heroes from this community for his football prowess, but he's a brilliant man. And so we started the campus party. About 3 days before the election, I recognized that we had about 350 committed votes. They were, and you understand, we didn't have email, we didn't have cell phones, we had nothing except a notice board somewhere. This is ridiculous, but I went to the minority party. I knew that they were probably going to lose as they had the last election. And I said, let's go see Dean Dunford. And I've got a thought. Let's change this system in its entirety. You join me and you will be elected. And your party, all of these offices will turn over from student governance. They went with, and it should be, we ought to have representatives from the various colleges dependent upon their population to the governing body. Guess what? They agreed to it. Dean of students said, I've been trying to get something like this done for years. And we changed university governance at the University of Tennessee. What did I do the next semester, the next quarter? I pledged a fraternity.
You can't beat them, join them.
But it was Kappa Alpha, and every Kappa Alpha fraternity in the country at that time had a cannon in their front yard.
A real live cannon?
Cannon. The SAEs had a cannon in theirs.
Not for protection.
A cannon, a CANNON.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so our pledge class project was to get a cannon back because SAEs had dumped our cannon into the Tennessee River on the bridge over there. We did. We went down because one of the members of the pledge class said, don't worry about that. He was from Lookout Mountain. They've got all kinds of cannons down here at Lookout Mountain, but I know where one's loose at Fort Oglethorpe.
Fort Oglethorpe Battlefield and National Federal Reserve.
Oh,
Chickamauga
you're
National
probably
Bank.
not supposed to take that, right?
No, but it was loose. And it's an awful thing.
Yeah.
We got kicked out of the University of
Well,
Tennessee.
what were you thinking?
What?
What were you thinking?
That they wouldn't mind us
won't miss
moving
this
a
one little
They wouldn't
cannon.
miss it. There's thousands down there. But the other thing is we were going to display it on another federally chartered university.
Oh,
we were taking from one federal property to another.
Yeah, you thought it would.
No, I didn't think.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I'm a better lawyer today for that experience.
When you read an indictment that says the United States of America versus G. Scott Kanavos,
He's never been there, thank God.
praise God.
I'd have had to represent
Did you get out of that? How did
No.
you get out of that?
We were expelled from school. We had to pay the total cost. It cost the federal government like $500, $400 and something dollars to move the cannon back. We spent a total of $89 moving it.
Was it devastating at the time for you
Oh,
when
my
you
God.
realized?
Oh, my
what-
goodness.
Did you think you'd thrown it all away?
Gee, you know my family history.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I would have been the second person in the entire Cannon family to the next generation down from mothers. My mother and my father had to come and get me. We didn't have cars back then. I had a car.
So they
but I
were bringing
couldn't
you
drive
home.
there.
You'd been expelled for stealing a cannon.
That's correct.
From the federal government.
That's correct.
And
But
they were
guess what?
sending you to law school.
No, it was freshman year at the
Oh.
University of Tennessee as a student.
You were doing real good.
Huh?
You weren't doing very good at that point, right? Still.
Getting that,
Yeah.
they kicked me out after I had made this dean of students thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
told me, Mr. Logan, I know you wish to be an attorney. I want you to know that if I'm still alive, I'll make certain you're able to get into law school. And he did.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful story. But the story, there are consequences every time we make a mistake or do something intentionally wrong. My mother, we didn't have these bucket seats. We had bench seats. We put my stuff in the back of a Rambler. My father drove. My mother sobbed quietly the entire 92 miles
Oh,
to Cleveland, Tennessee. And
We've all been
occasionally
there,
I
right?
would grab My father would grab his breath. Mother, the next week, was diagnosed with acute leukemia and died in 10 days.
Oh my
man.
God. It's horrible.
Now, let me tell you something. I've used that, and Scott's heard this story. It's the best I could come up with. When somebody comes in and they've got a problem, mother brings them as a young man or woman.
If
to
they're
my
lucky.
office.
If they're lucky.
Dee, do you love your mother?
Sure.
Well, let me tell you something.
It's a great
If you do something, again, that's wrong, before you do that, give your mother a call and say, Mom, I'd like to come over and slap you across the face. And she'd say, come on, son, if it'll prevent you from doing something that hurts you or others. That story has worked. It's a true story,
It's beautiful too.
and it has worked. The man who has the largest number of clients cleaning public facilities across the state heard that story. He did go to jail. He went to prison, but he went for a lot less time than he otherwise would have. We were able to get him placed. As back when I could get you placed, because I knew the girl who sat in the Department of Corrections, and she, the most powerful person in the Department of Corrections, got to choose if somebody was going to the penitentiary where they were housed. This boy got housed. We had a 28-person facility in Chattanooga, out off of 4th Street. 28-person. He got to go there so that his mother and his grandmother could come and visit him, but just traveling to Chattanooga as opposed to driving all the way to Nashville, Tennessee.
And-
now listen, that man is one of the most significant players in the custodial services field in the state of Tennessee. And he comes to the office when he's in Cleveland. You, with your story, changed my life. You made me what I am today. I didn't do it. The love that he had for his mother, and I told him how much he hurt his mother and his grandmother. I knew her. Now that's the law taking place. But if we handle people fairly and justly and give them a reason to be a better person, we change the world.
That's why.
And that's that love
That
story.
goes beyond the law, right?
That's why it's got to begin with love.
That's the love story.
You cannot do what we do every day, day in and day out, unless you love people. And I love the law. I love the law because the law protects people. And it's supposed to be a uniform thing. Almost like my flat tax idea that Jimmy hates so much.
I do.
But you understand.
I don't hate it. I just know that it's not reasonable or just.
What
fair.
I know is this, okay? That the law should be applied to all of us fairly and equally. And it's got to begin with love. And it's got to be on both sides. You know, all I do now is criminal defense. But for a long time, I did criminal defense and I did a lot of domestic relations work and civil work. And what you learn quickly in domestic relations work is that really a happy marriage is purely by chance, okay? I mean, there are a lot of people who are married right now watching this or listening to this. And, you know, marriage is hard work disguised as fun.
So here's the thing that I've been thinking. A lot of these older men in the 50s, they seem to be more, like we say, concerned about, watching the news, reading the newspapers, always about the newspaper. Walter Cronkite or whoever it was, there's more about being informed, but they were also a member of clubs that me and Scott, we really weren't even members of, and we were on the end of it, and my kids, they wouldn't know what the Sertoma, the Kiwanis, the Oddfellows. I've heard about the Oddfellows. Was there an Oddfellows downtown?
Yes.
And what was, Mr. Finley?
Yes.
Well, he wrote a
Jim
book.
Finley.
Jim Finley. He's a great guy. He's still alive.
I think he passed away, Dee.
Oh, you think so?
Yes.
Well, I want to.
Jim, in case you're out there,
Yeah, Mr. Finley.
call Andrew
You think
Brown.
he did pass away?
I do, because, as you know, he was a collector
Of buttons.
Buttons.
I've got two
political
of his books.
memorabilia. And he was also a collector of license tags.
Have you ever been to his basement?
Yes.
It was-
He lived 2 blocks away from us. When
If
we
you've
lived
never
on
been to
Greenwood.
his basement, you've missed. But anyway, he wrote a book on the, what do they call it?
Civic Club?
Civic Clubs of Cleveland.
Yes.
But so, like the Odd Fellows, what was the Odd Fellows?
Well, first, they're still in business.
Oh, is that right?
In fact, the Oddfellows are right next door to my office. The old unemployment office.
Is that the
Yes.
Odd Fellows?
That's the Oddfellows. They
But
now.
how many members do they have now?
I don't know,
I'm
but they've
unaware of
got.
it.
I don't know, but they've got a car that's been parked there for a year or so. I wish they'd moved it.
Well,
Okay.
Remember Mr. Geithner? He was a member of the Odd Fellows.
Yes. But it's
What were
the
they
lack
about?
of us knowing people who are active in the Odd Fellows is probably as a result and I'm unaware that they're still active.
Yeah, they're still active.
Okay, but my suggestion is there are probably not as many members as there were in the 50s and 60s and
No.
70s.
All those institutions have
But-
died off.
Yeah, they have. But the Sertoma Club,
What's the
What'd you
Sertoma
say?
Club do?
Huh?
What'd they do?
they closed because all of their membership said, we're not coming to those meetings anymore. And they have died here and across the country. The Lions Club, which was, when I first started in 1971, and when I was president, we had 200 active members. We filled up. the
John
holiday
Edgar
inn.
Brown was a member.
That's correct.
And that
Right.
guy with the glasses,
Yes.
what was his name?
I don't recall.
He had that telescope on his eye. Remember him?
I recall him, but I don't remember his name. But we used to, and we still do this. I donate 6 to 8 hours a year to testing eyes of elementary school students and the freshmen
For the Lions Club?
for the Lions Club. It's not for us, it's for them. And we are doing, paying for a cataract surgery for a relatively poor is a relatively poor individual for sure. And we're paying for that. We have optometrists whom we pressure, if you will. No, we don't pressure them, we ask them to, and some do, who will do the eye exams, and we provide glasses for those children. We only have about 20 active members now. I think we've got 28. And
Golly.
it's soon
It's only
going
getting
away.
worse.
And we had 200 members when I was president.
Well, why is this?
Because we've changed, and here's why. When they were at 200 members, we had 3 television stations. We had 3, 9, and 12. Right?
People dressed up to go to the meetings, am I right?
Yes, they would.
We had 3 television stations, 3, 9, and 12, and only 2 of those stations came in clearly. Right? Now we've got 57 channels, and there's
I'm
nothing
sorry,
on.
180, depending on who you
Whatever.
join into. Yeah, it's crazy.
But you don't understand. It's 57 channels and there's nothing on. All these things have died off because community has died off. Community has died off because when you're at home and everything is being beamed into your house, and now, heaven forbid, with the advent of these cell phones, used to lawyers would go and sit and we would get stuck in court for hours. And we were compelled to do one thing that made the relationship between 2 lawyers so much better. And that was we were compelled to talk to each other. Now these lawyers, including me, I go to court now and I sit there and I have that cell phone. And I have the entire world. I have more power in that cell phone, more information in that cell phone. I mean, honestly, remember the old preacher standing up and saying, the mark of the beast. What will the mark of the beast be? I think it'll be very similar to this, okay? Except it's not inserted yet into the palms of our hands or injected into our foreheads yet, because it's all right there, seemingly. But what has happened is we've grown more and more distant. There's an excellent book called Bowling Alone, all right? And it talks about the destruction of these institutions and why. I was an exalted ruler at the Cleveland Elks Lodge for 2 years. And the hardest thing to do was to attract new membership.
I remember that. You made me join again.
I know, because I was calling everybody trying to get. And again, it was a very rewarding task. We accomplished a lot of good for the community, but you can see that it's so hard because people have so many distractions. They have so many other things they want to do. Church attendance is down. Am I right?
The church attendance is down.
Church attendance is down except for the mega churches who preach prosperity.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now let me share with you.
And they have a nursery and a daycare and a bunch of, well, they've got one of these big churches has that Duck Dynasty guy speaking tonight. I think he's
exactly
speaking right
correct.
now.
First Baptist Church has him speaking tonight.
Isn't that your church? First Baptist?
It was, but I, as a result of the children and the grandchildren, 6 of them down in 6 of the grandchildren in Aniana, Alabama, we attend a Methodist church down there now rather than a Baptist church. You know what I find great about that?
What?
The Methodist church, we recite from statements of faith and what the values are.
Is that
and it's
similar?
shocking to me that we used to do that in the Baptist church, but we don't anymore.
Doesn't the Catholic Church do that a lot?
Yes,
They do.
yes, they do.
More
But the
ritualistic.
statement of that's correct.
Mythology.
Yeah.
Method.
Yes,
Regimented.
Regimented.
absolutely. But how wonderful. The one group which has continued to be successful, greatly not one, because there are many who are, the Optimist Club.
Optimist, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
What are some of the other clubs? I know the Home Builders, but that's sort of a business-related thing.
business-related
It's
thing,
not the
sure.
same as just people come together just for
Pure
the benefit of and meeting regular.
Even the Bar Association numbers. When I first went to my first bar meeting, I kid you not, it was something. All the judges showed up.
Yes,
The district attorney general was there
with his staff.
with his staff. The public
Dressed up.
everybody was dressed to the nines. I was fresh out of the Navy. We had a nice dinner. We shared some fellowship. We talked. Now, again, it's lawyers. The good thing about being a lawyer is that we don't stab each other in the back. Lawyers stab each other in the face. All right? Okay?
I was going to disagree, but
It's,
and then you go eat lunch.
yeah, exactly right. And, you know, that's the good thing about being a lawyer is that really you can sit, and honestly, Jim Logan has just dumped on me time and time again, and I appreciate it because my grandfather told me when I was a boy, sometimes you're the anvil and sometimes you're the hammer, all right? And this is great training for a lawyer. If you're when you're the anvil, you got to learn how to take hard hits. And when you're the hammer, you got to learn how to strike hard hits. And that's one of the things about those social meetings that were so good because you could really have a gathering of people who honestly didn't like you all that much. But it wouldn't matter because we were intellectually free. And all of us were part of the same process. And because we were lawyers, okay, we were compelled to be more civil to each other than we really felt about each other.
Sure, out of courtesy or respect or whatever.
And things would just move along from there. We would go to Diamond Lills every day.
Yeah.
We'd have an entire phalanx of lawyers there.
There's still a group out in Memphis, and I've had the privilege of going out there several times. And they meet, a judge has every week, he has a luncheon engagement with the Bar Association. It's full, and he absolutely covers with them the problems which are developing within the court, his court, and another judge's court out there. And it's wonderful to see that interaction with a judge, and that makes us interact. I love to go to that. If I'm out in Memphis, I want to, because I get to interact with folk who practice law, and it is somewhat a social atmosphere. But Scott, how many members of the bar are there now? And how many members are there active in the
How
bar
many know it's Law Day coming up May the 1st?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think right now we have, 75 members of the local bar. You think that's correct?
But actual participants, we have more than
How many would
75.
be in
When you include the DA's office and the PD's office, there's a lot more than 75.
The DA's office?
Yeah, but we have a lot fewer that actually show up for the bar meetings.
On the courthouse square at 30 2nd Street is the law firm of Logan Thompson Law. Since 1965, they have served the legal needs for the good citizens of Cleveland Bradley County. If you've got a problem, they're no problem. Give them a call.
Let's make sure of one thing, though, for certain. I think that we have at least 3, and I can debate 4, of the finest jurists that we've ever had.
What's the jurist?
Judge.
Judges. Okay.
The judge.
Judge Ships.
Judge Ships. Now, do I have complaints about one of them? Oftentimes I do. I've seen Scott Kanavos try cases in front of a judge, which many lawyers complain about. I think that even Mr. Kanavos may have said some harsh words, but he was treated ultimately fairly and got a not guilty verdict in a very serious case in McMinn County. Hard work, a job well done, without question, and his convincing closing argument was just brilliant. It really was. Now, what are we going to do, though, in terms of that social responsibility which allows us to have a just society?
We got to find another way other than these. I'm not going to go to the Kiwanis Club next week or the Satoma Club, so that's over with. So I don't know what the next thing is.
Well, that's a very interesting thing.
I really don't know.
What I think a lot of people discovered, Jim goes to the funeral homes,
Yeah,
and I'll go to the funeral homes.
and
Right? Because I love my clients, and I love to see my friends off when they go. Right? It's just that's an East Tennessee thing, don't you think? We were raised that way. But since the COVID thing has come along, I've stopped going to the funeral homes. You've been going to funeral homes as much as you were?
Not as much, but one of those things is the media is not what it used to be.
Oh, it's awful.
Okay? The media is not, because we used to know the morning after the night before when Sam died.
That's right.
But today, we get a print paper.
well, let's take for instance right now.
When?
I mean, let's take this for instance right now. Point in case or case in point. 08 and 09 ushered in the acceptance of an inexpensive funeral because of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
COVID ushered in the acceptance of not even going.
But Jim does make an important point. When we got that Cleveland Daily Banner every day,
That's what.
every day, the first thing you go to would be the obituary page.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Bill Varnell died Thursday.
Right.
Have you heard?
No.
I heard, but that's because of my relationship with some of the other family members.
But here you
other
go.
than that, I
Now,
would not
other
have
than
known.
that, I don't know how anybody would know. And he would have a full house if anybody did. I mean, he was a great guy, but how do you even know him other than WCOE?
It's awful because without and really this is another institution that is breaking down right around us
in front of our eyes.
in front of our eyes, because we used to we had a sense of community because we went to church. We knew we would have known
Yeah.
Bill was ill.
That's
we'd
right.
Have, we'd have
We
showed
would-
up at a meeting
yeah.
and we would have known Bill was ill. But without that banner showing up, honestly, I tell I do this in front of juries all the time too. Why am I blind? Because I see by the banner. Remember they used to have that little place in there?
I see the banner.
I see by the banner,
yeah.
right? But that's how I also know that I'm not dead. I would open up the Cleveland Daily Banner, my obituary word in there, I'd be another day on this side of the dirt.
Well,
You know?
wouldn't it something?
This is wild, though, because now I'm told that 76% of the people acknowledge that their source of the news and positions is social media,
Do you-
Facebook. What?
Hey, let me say this. I went to the newspaper and I asked them about running an ad for the podcast. And they gave me a price and said that they had like 6,000 subscribers. And I said, hey, I've got more people watching my show than your banners. Y'all need to be advertising with me.
Yes.
That's really a good idea.
And now they're gone.
I've got his number, the Cleveland Daily Banner. I've got his number.
Yeah.
Well, they're
And
not
now
they're not completely gone, but they're a dying institution.
Aren't they moving?
They've moved
They have
already.
moved. They're at the Century 21 building.
On Chambliss and
No, it's not Chambliss. It's
Ocoee
and
and
21st.
And boy, the Cleveland Daily Banner, although I get it now about 2 days later, maybe 3.
Yeah, and
It comes in the mail.
And we got Thursdays yesterday.
Right. Okay. So it still does what you want a small town newspaper to do. If your kid's playing little league, playing little league baseball,
Yes.
it's
But
don't get me wrong.
the thing about it is, back then, I remember reading the newspaper, and I'd play little league baseball, and I'd hit a home run, and I was going to see if it's in the newspaper, and Corky Whitlock.
Yeah, Corky
they'd
Whitlock.
write down that it's got a double, and everybody knew it. I'll be honest with you, I quit getting the newspaper about 6 or 8 months ago because it was so small, and I hate things that are sporadic. Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday is sporadic to me.
agree with
It's
you.
every day.
Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Well, see, I'm 7 days a week
I agree
or
with you.
I'm none.
I agree with you.
So,
At first, I hated when the Chattanooga Times Free Press went to digital, but now I get it every day.
do you read it?
Every day I read it.
See, I just refuse to do it. If I'm like Larry Presswood. Larry Presswood said he always did his fingers like he said, if I can't feel it, I don't want to read it.
Well, that's one way to be, but they still deliver the hard copy, the Sunday copy. But I'm going to discontinue that because I have to get up and go down the driveway and get it now when I've already read it in the house. It's
But
ridiculous.
what's the future? Because we're not going to change these things. There's not going to be civic communities. There's no Coach Geithner. Remember, he was at the Oddfellows. I remember I went with C.W. Bullens
Yes.
to the
Yes.
Optimus Club? No, Lions Club.
Club.
And remember, Harlan Painter used to,
Yes.
he'd call and say, I need to speak with Dee Burris, and I always thought, I'm getting sued, and then I'd say hello, and say, Dee, this is Harlan. Oh, what is it, Harlan? Will you buy a box of Lions Club?
bulbs.
Sure.
You'd be so relieved.
I'm sorry. And one time he called the office and he saw me on the street, and I said yes both times. And from that day on, for like 10 or 12 years, he'd bring me 2 boxes.
Yes.
Yeah, having a lawyer for a friend's a little bit like having the Grim Reaper for one. Hey, Dee, what
Hey,
about
let me ask you this: am I wrong, or is hiring a lawyer hiring a friend?
Oh, that's a great question, Dee.
It is a great question.
Because
And the
that's
thing-
what it feels like. You're hiring someone to
Let
be
me-
your friend.
Go ahead.
Let me
Go ahead,
take
sir.
this. When I got arrested, okay, back in August 19th, 1994. okay?
94.
All right. I'll tell you this much about getting arrested. Once you get arrested, you will know who your friends really are. Okay? Now, I got arrested for nothing. Okay? Public drunk.
You were in Georgia? Is that right?
No, I was in
East
East
Ridge.
Ridge, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
I got arrested.
Which
Right
was,
on the edge.
the statute itself had been
No.
repealed.
I got arrested
Yeah.
for public drunk, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, really, that's not that much. That's not terrible. But for a lawyer to
Oh,
get arrested, and for an assistant DA, all right? I mean, you're talking again to one of the only assistant DAs I've ever known who's ever been arrested, let alone, okay, fired from his job over something that's so trivial. Prosecuted, right?
I mean, I'm with a guy that's public drunk and a guy that stole
Stole
a
the
cannon.
cannon. Exactly right. Two hardened criminals
Yeah.
here. But I will tell you this: if you're charged with something more serious, heaven forbid, heaven forbid you're charged with something more serious, because you will quickly learn who your real friends are and who they aren't. Immediately, I was stuck with the dilemma of having to hire a lawyer. Now, I will tell you, having grown up in the shadow of Jim Logan, the last person I wanted to go to was Jim Logan to be my lawyer. All right?
I'm gonna guess, and I have not heard this story, but I'm gonna guess, knowing him, he called you.
Oh, no, he didn't.
No.
He didn't. Because there is a certain quid pro quo that goes on here. There's a certain, there's a certain not etiquette involved, okay? And I had gone to some other people, right? And I talked, and they were all earnest people, right? And then I finally just realized I had to go see the best criminal defense lawyer I ever knew, right? Which was Jim Logan and Ken Miller. Now, Ken Miller, though I love Ken, okay? Ken said to me immediately, this is going to be the best thing ever happened to you. You needed this experience. It's going to be a real wake-up call for you, okay? Jim Logan understood, though, okay, that I needed a lawyer, but he wasn't necessarily going to be my friend, though he was friendly to me immediately, right? And about the fifth or sixth phone call to him during that time period, he just finally laid it out for me and said, look, you don't understand something. I'm your lawyer in this capacity. I'm not your friend, right? You've been charged with a crime and you know what it is. If you don't know what it is, crack open a book and read it, pal, all right? I've got other clients I've got to attend to. If you really want to help with your defense, then get up here into my law library and take a look and do some research on this. But I'm not going to hold your hand and babysit you all the way through this, all right? Am I telling the truth? If I'm not telling the truth, say I'm not telling you.
No, you are telling the truth. But I remained, and that's something that's kind of difficult to do. If you really want that person to be totally forthcoming, you tell them, I am not your friend, but I can assure you I will be friendly with you. And the other thing that's oftentimes, and it happens every day to us, we may bring a case may come to us, and the guy tells us, I was in Saudi Arabia. I didn't commit that crime in Charleston, Tennessee.
That's right.
And you learn that they were not in Saudi Arabia. There's a picture of that person in Charleston, Tennessee.
Committing the crime.
Committing the crime. But it is so important, though, that you have the kind of relationship where you can disclose, I will be friendly with you. And when I'm not, please share it with me, what you're feeling or sensing.
Exactly right.
Because we have to be a team.
But what I'm saying is, a guy comes to you, he's done this thing wrong, he's committed a crime, or they said he did, or whatever. A lot of times, they need to vent.
That's correct.
And that venting can be to their psychologist, to their counselor, to their preacher, or their lawyer who's going to tell it. Because the preacher, they're not going to be able to help you. So what I'm saying is you're hiring I still think you're hiring, I say a friend, and I use that loosely. You may be hiring a voice, hiring a mouthpiece, hiring somebody that says, because a lot of these people, they just want somebody to forgive them. Does that make sense?
Without question, oftentimes people want that, but you first have to get over the denial of reality.
That's exactly
You've
right.
got to get over the denial of reality.
Well, explain that.
Well, because denial is such a powerful thing, Dee. People walk around, think about it. We're only here a short while, all right? People who've done something wrong are engaged in such steadfast denial, and that denial goes to their core because they try to justify so many.
Now, are we talking about a speeding ticket or
Brother, it doesn't matter. Let me tell you
it
something.
doesn't matter. So you're
Big
saying,
or small case, okay? When somebody's making an accusation against somebody else, all right? The first thing you ought to do I think, first, don't go see your psychiatrist, don't go see your preacher, don't go tell your mother or your father. If you have committed, or if you're suspected of committing a crime, you need to get in a lawyer's office as quickly as possible and have that lawyer sit you down and say, look, I know you want to confess your soul to me, but in this instance, I'm not your friend, okay? This is what they're accusing you of, and maybe you need to do a little research on what it is that they're accusing you of in the meantime. But if you're going to entrust me with your case, I don't want you talking to these other people about it because I don't want any additional witnesses to come in against me.
okay, so
And
now,
silence is golden. What is it?
96% of the people in the penitentiary today are there as a result of opening their mouths
And talking to somebody.
and oftentimes misstating something, but in that disclosure of falsity,
So
they
it gets
get caught
misinterpreted.
lying because
Absolutely.
there's something else there, and then they.
No man bridleth the tongue, the Bible says.
There you go.
Silence
Good
is
stuff.
Is golden.
Silence is the fence of wisdom.
Yes.
That's from the Quran.
Let me share something.
Silence
with you
is the fence
The fence of wisdom.
of wisdom. All right, but what I'm saying is we all have confirmation bias. Confirmation, what do they call that? Cognitive dissonance and all that stuff. In other words,
I just had a rash of that the other day. I cleared it right up with some rubbing alcohol.
but I mean, everybody that, you know, everything is nuanced in interpretation. I mean, so say you got a guy that, I'm inventing a crime, but say he stole this, and he stole this, but he says, no, I put it in my pocket. They told me to get it, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I'm saying is, when you hire a lawyer, are you hiring someone to be on your side?
Absolutely. First, I don't care. I don't care, and I think Jim will share this with me. When the client comes into my office, this is what civilians always ask me. Do you ask them if they're guilty? I don't care if they're guilty. I prefer them to be guilty because we talked about the 3 hardest groups to represent, lawyers, doctors, and family members. Well, the hardest group by far to represent is a person who believes in their absolute innocence. Now, that's very difficult, particularly if they are innocent, but they're still being charged.
So now we're saying if you're innocent makes no difference.
No, it is. We perform a role which is a part of our law. That is to provide legal services to someone without regard to their moral guilt. Now that's a problem.
All right,
for a lot of people.
that sounds good as a definition of the job, but what I'm saying is what people want is to hire a friend.
They do.
Someone that will side with them.
But the most powerful friend in the world is the friend who says, please relax. Please be quiet. I know you want to tell me all this stuff, but I don't want to hear it. I'm assuming because you're here that you're not guilty, and I'm going to operate from that. Now, together, you and I will take on all comers, all right? We'll take on all comers, all right? Because it's not our job to prove your innocence, Dee. It's their job to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. For the Spartans do not care what our enemy number. We only want to know where are they.
And are you on that person's team?
Oh,
That's
hell.
what they want to know.
Oh, hell yes.
They want to know fidelity
Yes.
is present.
Absolutely.
Okay, now,
Why?
Why? Because I'm wired that way. I'm wired to defend people. Look, I'm not afraid of the judgment of others. I welcome it, right? But in the meantime, I'm going to do all I can to get my client the very best result. Let's use the stealing analogy that you had. It's happened before. Sure. A guy comes into your office one day and says, I'm accused of stealing a dump truck. All right? No kidding, right?
Yeah.
And now what happens is, it's up to the police to do their job. My guy says, I didn't steal the dump truck, right? Well, here's my guy's truck, okay? Caught on a camera from a convenience store with a dump truck loaded up on a trailer behind it. Here is my guy on a Facebook page somewhere with the truck, okay? That has the trailer behind it. Here is my guy and 3 other witnesses standing at the Justice Center talking about the dump truck that my guy gets asked about 2 hours earlier and then manages to deliver to the Justice Center. Now that is a hole that you got to dig out of.
But he's still hiring a friend.
He is hiring a friend, but he's hiring a friend who's going to look at him and say, we've got some real problems here.
we've got to be forthcoming.
That's
All right,
right.
so what I'm
you can
saying-
call him, stop being a liar if you want to.
To.
And there's some defense lawyers who do that. I know.
But what
He's talking
I'm
about
saying
me.
is, when you hire someone, you said, I'm not your friend, I'm your lawyer. They'd almost rather have a friend than a lawyer.
No, I'm not
No,
certain of that.
they're
But
not saying
anyway,
that.
Let's understand something before we do wind this up. And I'm enjoying the conversation, enjoying listening to some very bright people.
You're so funny.
But
That's
the
a dig.
fact is that what we're talking about here is one aspect of that part of our celebration of Law Day. That's one aspect of it.
What is the aspect?
That the criminal defense arena, that's one aspect. Everybody wants to talk about criminal law. The reality is the great majority of the cases which come before the courts are not, we don't call it a court of crimes, we need to, as opposed to a criminal court. Great story about that. And a young man who had never been in front of the Court of Criminal Appeals, and he says, this honorable criminal court this, and this honorable criminal. Joe Tipton looked down at him and said, son, you know, we're referred to as the Criminal Court of Appeals. Most of us think that it ought to be the Court of Appeals for crimes. If you call this court criminal one more time, I'm going to have the court officer take you down to the Knox County Jail. Because he was pointing at him as a criminal. But the fact is that that's only one aspect of what we're here about today. We're here about how do we achieve those goals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. How do we continue to perform those things? And Dee, I understand all of these interests in divorce cases, all this interest in criminal cases, all these interest in other things. The question of how we achieve justice when the Tennessee Supreme Court says the legislature has discerned that the most you can recover for killing this father of three is established by the legislature. How do we as a society say that's just? That we get a legislature who's now dominated and appoint justices who are now dominated by people of a certain political philosophy that nobody that I know, nobody whom I know, really thinks that the legislature ought to set a maximum recovery for somebody having done something that's really very reckless and results in the death of daddy to a 2-year-old. Anybody think that we ought not to, as a society, as our jury system provides, come together and think about what's fair and just in that case?
And this again is why elections matter.
That's right.
Because
it goes back to that.
Yeah, because here we go, right? Tort reform was something a lot of people ran on. A lot of people around here supported. They all voted for it. And everybody's for that kind of thing until they suffer a catastrophic loss, until their family's one being...
Healthcare liability claims have been essentially written off the books.
That's exactly right. With
the changes in the legislature. Workers' compensation is a different world today. And why is that? It's because Phil Bredesen, who's very friendly with me, I've spoken on
Set the
his
limits,
behalf.
right?
He introduced a piece of legislation to make us competitive with Texas and Mississippi. And he came to the trial lawyers' annual luncheon when he ran for the United States Senate. I know that many of you are upset with me because I did give in to restructuring our compensation program for people who are injured on the job. I tell you, I did that because I really believe that we need more work and better paying jobs in this state, and we couldn't compete by being fair and just to workers who themselves may have been partially responsible. Didn't matter.
It's getting more and more draconian, though.
Yeah, everything is.
Isn't that amazing that a man whom I know to be as good as gold and as brilliant as anybody has to decide how we're going to get good paying jobs for Tennesseans?
No, it's politics.
Well, should one suffer that all or die, or whatever that the old saying is, I guess.
It's like, here we go, this most recent term of the legislature, right? I mean, now they want, you know, we've long had a long view that the juvenile court system was designed and has been designed so that if a young man or young woman stepped out of line before their 18th birthday, we would have an opportunity, except in the most serious cases, we have an opportunity to reform that person as a community and make him whole. Because we all understand that the judgment processes of somebody before their 18th birthday aren't what they ought to be.
Really, it should be 25, I would argue.
Well, Dee, I'm going to sign you up.
I mean,
you got
really,
my
I
vote.
would.
Because now, you know what they're trying to do?
What?
They're trying to drop it to 17.
Well, it's ridiculous.
And they're
Well, they are.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to pass.
I don't know if it's, but it is within 2 votes. I
Of
know,
passing.
Of passing.
And they want to have all these juvenile cases being referred now to criminal court. And it's just the
And that's
wrong way-
criminal, in my opinion.
It's the wrong way to go.
Nobody today at age 17, 18
20.
is as seasoned in life
No
as
possible.
this man was, you were, and I was
At the
age
same time.
17.
There's no possible
There's no way.
Anybody
Today
that
it's
would vote
different.
for that is really an idiot.
Well, I just got to say, you've got 3 guys right here in this district that not only have voted for it, but support it. And
That's
it's the most
crazy. That's
asinine
crazy.
thing I've ever heard of.
What would be what's the end motive to that? They must not have kids that age.
Take the situation, if you recall, the great debates which took place in the United States Senate in the 50s and early 60s of 1800s, okay? Now, those people, you would have thought that they were ready to do an Aaron Burr and whatever that guy's name was where they have the gun.
A duel.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
Aaron
You would
Gunn.
think that they were engaged in that. But that is absolutely not where they wound up.
Well,
Clay and all of those other people, they would have those great debates. Wasn't it wonderful, really, though I may have disagreed with some of the decisions, when the big guys like Sam Irwin and Tip O'Neill and those people were able to cross hands and have a friendly discussion at the end of the day with another cigar or a drink of brandy together and actually lessened the differences that they had. They were able to talk through it. And today, if you're caught dead with a Democrat in some places,
Yeah.
it's the end.
Well, if you're caught dead, it is the
Not
end.
locally.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, politically, you're
Yeah,
right.
politically.
yeah, politically,
Yeah,
it's the end.
Yeah,
But-
one party rule has not been good for Tennessee. I
It's
don't
been
think.
bad.
It's
It's
been
been
bad.
bad.
I liked
It's
it when it was
bad.
more competitive.
Yeah.
I think we had
Some ebb and flow, some moon.
better exchange of
Yeah.
ideas. Now it's all one way or the highway, and the more ridiculous it seems to be, the more it's accepted. You know, I gauge all of my relationships about how far I can drive in a car with someone. Okay, like that Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think Jimmy and I could get to between here and Dalton with her. What do you think?
The state line would be far too far. But irrespective of that, guys, we've got to understand that good
Boy,
people,
I enjoy her comments.
Do you?
Yeah, as far as at least she's saying what her comments are. I like a person.
That whole Jewish laser beam thing
Well,
didn't cause you any
I
problems?
like a person that at least says what they think. Does that make sense?
because she makes those statements to further make it sensational.
Yeah.
Not because that's what she thinks.
But at least
she
she's
knows
transparent.
She's
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment politics.
It's entertainment
That's what
politics.
it is.
That's what
Yeah.
it is.
I don't think you really appreciate entertainment politics.
Well,
You
I
are a
appreciate
fair-minded
I
individual.
appreciate someone who says what they think. I can tell when somebody's saying something to
She says that all Democrats are pedophiles.
Yeah.
I don't even like
Well, that's not
children.
true.
Just for the record. I don't even like my own. Okay.
Do y'all dread going to work tomorrow?
I know he doesn't.
No,
Do you have some problems that you're really not sure how to work out and they bother you at work?
oh, certainly. That
And you,
that
Scott?
occurs because you get a sense of the presentation that a client is making and whether or not the judge is approving of that. And actually, you may know from having had the interaction with your client that your client's not articulating it sufficiently their interest position.
Well, that's why
People
they're
get
hiring-
frustrated.
that's why
But they
they're
get
hiring-
I know
frustrated.
this much. Jim Logan wakes up every day with a song in his heart. He loves to work. He does. Now, I love being a lawyer, but Jimmy knows this is true about me. There's only one job I ever really wanted, and I wanted to be District Attorney General. Okay, it's the only job in East Tennessee, out of my hometown, that I wanted.
I'd
Now,
vote for you for president, but go ahead.
well, I appreciate you saying that. But, I love my hometown. I love growing up here. I'm part of it. I'm dug in. I love Cleveland. I love the 10th Judicial District. Now, I have made millions of dollars, okay, since Jimmy represented me. Okay? It's true.
I
Okay?
even got a check after it was over because we sued the hotel
We
in
sued him.
Ridge.
And I was unjustly prosecuted. But that doesn't matter, okay? What does matter to this is that I love living here. My people were buried here. My children were born here. I'm dug in here. There are only two political jobs I think are worth having. County executive would be fun, okay, because you really could affect a lot of change, a lot of cool things, and district attorney general. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I think that the mayor, if you will, since we stopped calling him a county judge, the mayoral position is a powerful, powerful position. That person can essentially negate, through our budgeting process, the needs of the community, because he is so absolutely committed to no new taxes.
You mean our present one?
Our present mayor.
Our president,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
But somebody
But
different in
that's
that
a
job,
position you can change
so much,
so much.
so much.
But not as much as the district attorney, as far as power.
The district attorney's office look,
It's very powerful.
very, very powerful, can impact lives, can impact the crime issues. And I really would not like to discuss individual cases at all. But there are cases which are not prosecuted, which could be prosecuted, and the decisions as to whether or not you decide to prosecute a case.
You sure could afford a lot of justice to a lot of people. We've seen a strange proliferation of this burgeoning of cases where really the evidence is so weak against them because we haven't had anybody really put down the brakes and say, wait, what can we prove?
That's kind of the general consensus right now, say that again.
What we've got going on between the legislature and this police establishment. I mean, you could say I'm all for law enforcement. I have many friends in law enforcement, and I'm glad they're there.
Yep.
I pay taxes just like everybody else.
Right.
And I don't want that. I don't want anybody coming to my house, and I don't want to abolish, defund law enforcement. But I'll tell you this much. We frankly have too many law enforcement officers in this community.
Well,
than we
here's
used
a
to have.
small example. I've got 2 letters in here from needing to mow my yard from tenants that I don't even know who they are, not mowing their yard. And these are people that are working to make a living. I think that that's too much police power, and it probably is worse on up the ladder.
It's just everywhere you go, It's just more and more
it's
and more
the
and more.
police. It's a serious offense not mowing your yard in the city of Cleveland.
We
It
used to,
is, and then.
Y'all may
but the
not get
question-
those letters, but I do.
No, I get them, and I get the telephone calls for we're going to tear down your home because you have not kept up your yard.
Do they know who they're calling?
When they call me,
Yeah.
most of them do, and most of them are poor people.
Yeah,
can't
No, I'm talking
afford-
about you don't get the letters or
No,
the
the
calls.
client- the
Oh, the
client.
client.
The clients bring
clients
Okay,
who
yeah.
get the letters for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
You understand.
No, I've not gotten any of those
Yeah.
letters,
Yeah.
but I keep my yard mowed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's pretty.
Tracy Kanavos
And
keeps her yard mowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but somebody who doesn't, and you've got a field full of mice and snakes and other things, and you owned your mother's home next door, what you gonna do when the city says, that person who's got that field with snakes and mice and everything else who's coming over and robbing your, invading your mother's home, what do you think? Does Dee Burris say, "Oh, don't worry about it. Mama can live with him"?
Well, we're going
We're going a little bit off astray.
We're going a little bit astray of what's going on because we're talking about yards this high from a guy that's working in Dalton at a carpet factory. He's just trying to survive, man.
We do, listen.
You see what I'm saying?
We live in a police state.
All I'm
I think we live in a police state. Do you believe we live in a police state?
Well, that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
saying that goes.
You don't think we live in a police state, Jimmy?
Well, did you not enjoy the fact that I would come in with a reasonable position in opposition to what he said?
I did, but man, I'm just saying to you, finally, you gotta, at some point, we must have an accord
I mean,
here.
I don't think that the city policeman, and I don't think that people need to go to the city court because they don't have a tarp on the car that's got a flat tire. This is real. This is not fictitious. It's crazy. I got
I think that
And meanwhile, the Oddfellows have had that car sitting on their property for more than a year. Right next to me. But I still haven't snitched out the Oddfellows, Jimmy. Because snitches get stitches, baby. I know there's Oddfellows, all three of them coming after me.
You just wish
all three of them.
Guys, I really
You know
do
there's
think,
three because it's an odd number.
I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but some of us have appointments at 7.
Hey, where do you got to go at 7?
I have to meet with a family via a Zoom meeting whose wife and child died as a result of a horrific event which occurred on Georgetown Highway 60. Okay? Complex issues. They work every day. The only time they have available, the two of them, is Sunday evening because they work, one of them, their work is such that they can't. And they're here trying to raise enough money to pay the funeral bill and the transport of the body back to South Carolina. And, you know, I'm sorry, but I think that their ox is in the ditch. And it's entirely possible I can't do anything at all about it. But the techniques, the knowledge we've developed over 52 and a half years as to how to deal with those circumstances is such, with due respect, in terms of the theories of liability and things. I'm not sure that anybody knows all of those. I lose more cases than I win, perhaps.
This is why most lawyers die in the harness, okay? This is why, I mean, 52 years of practice law. I'm at 35 years. And my retirement plan is not his. His retirement plan is 6 pallbearers, okay? I am not going that route.
I want to die of a heart attack while I'm walking in front of the jury with closing argument. My client can get a new trial and get a better lawyer to represent him.
I wanted to come back, as soon as I come back, not guilty, then die. That's what I want.
You two are you're the pillars of the community.
Well, I don't know.
And y'all are so much alike that I know from an onlooker. And y'all even eat the same. Did you know that? Y'all both hold your forks the same way.
That's right.
Why is that?
Well, I've had this terrible, terrible event occur called a brief palsy. That's why I changed.
No, you've always eaten your like that.
You didn't like my story?
You have too. Why is that?
I grew up with Depression-era grandparents who, my grandfather, and all my uncles will attest to this, he would hoard over those beans, okay? And he'd just scoop it. He'd get it in his mouth fast enough.
Sure, that's for sure. But Dee, thank you for this program.
Man, I tell you what,
thank you so much.
Y'all are both of my heroes, and you're two of the smartest people. If I had to list 10 of the smartest people I know, y'all would be in the top 10. That's the truth.
Well, that's a real compliment coming from you.
And I mean it, and I love you both.
You're super creative.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Love you.
Thanks for
Celebrate
coming. I
Long
really
Day.
appreciate it.
All right, long day.
Take it back.